Okay, and back onto here. There we go. Time for questions. I saw Gohan ask one earlier as well, so I'm going to pick that up. So let's do that. Overwatch is about changing heroes and adapting to the enemy team. Why is the ads change often? How often is often? Well, like I kind of explained there, just before we went to Q&A, basically, you've got to think of your ability to do stuff in terms of power spikes. So Overwatch heroes work on a graph. And it's not like a MOBA, like a traditional MOBA, where, as you know, this is it's gold. Or no, this is undo. So this is power, and this is gold. And so in a MOBA, you generally get stuff. Well, it's not usually a straight line. It's normally like do. As you get your items, your power increases, right? And so you have this sort of almost like a linear progression, might curve slightly for some heroes, might curve less for other heroes, who knows. In Overwatch, it's more like power and ults, or like ult charge. Okay, and it isn't like a linear thing, it's like boom. While you have the ultimate, you have this increased power, and then you use it, and you go back down, boom. Boom. And so, you know, these are the periods when you have your ultimate up, or when you have it potentially ready, for example. That's just a huge influence on the game as well. If you're like Zenyatta and you're just holding onto a Transcendence, you're influencing the game in a way that people are going to have to play around and play accordingly. So you have increased power in the game. Then when you use it, of course, you just naturally have increased influence as well. So this is something that the enemy team has to play around, has to be thinking about. When you are changing heroes a lot, what you're doing is you're going to here, and you might even get to here, and then suddenly it's like, douche. And then you have to do it all over again, and then you might get an ultimate. But if you're changing heroes too often, then it might just be a case of, oh, you never get the power spike. And you never get that advantage. So you want to be careful over swapping, and you want to try and leverage, you know, okay, can I build an ultimate? Okay, can I get kills? And if you aren't building any ultimate charge, then sure, swap. That's actually a very good indicator that your hero is bad for that situation. But be careful of like swapping more than twice in a single game. If you're swapping every time you die, then you are just never getting an advantage. And by the time you swap for like the third or fourth time, the enemy team has so many ultimates available compared to yours that their power is just way higher, and they can just start rationing out ultimates. It's why I get annoyed when people say like, oh, this isn't working, let's swap, and then they die, and then they swap again. Oh, we need to swap more. Oh, we need to swap more. And by that point, the enemy team has such a huge advantage, it doesn't matter what you swap into, they're still going to win. Ult charge, how important is it to consider before swapping? It depends on the ultimate, is the simple answer. I would say the ultimates you should feel fine swapping off are stuff like Deadeye, for example. Just drop it, fire it, kill one person maybe, don't kill anyone, don't care. Deadeye's kind of garbagey as an ultimate, so feel free to swap off with it. Barrage, I'd say, is actually another one. Like, just kill one person with it, just drop it, do something with it, kill a Reinhardt barrier, don't care, don't sort of hold on to a Pharah ultimate for ages hoping that you're going to get perfect positioning. If you are getting completely shut down as Pharah, you will never be able to get into position to get a barrage off, so the barrage won't be useful. Dragon Strike, again, is another one you can just fire. I'd say in terms of ultimates, like, you should just consider, can I actually get my ultimate off in an impactful way? If I cannot, then I should probably just swap. And if you are just getting shut down, like if you're leaving spawn and you're playing Genji, for example, and you've got a Dragon Blade, you're leaving spawn, you're jumping out, you're throwing a couple of shurikens out and dying, and that's happened like 4 times in a row, you are long past the point where you should have swapped. You're not getting the Dragon Blade. You should either just use it and just maybe get something, or maybe force out an ultimate on their half, and then swap immediately, or you just swap. Like, if you're playing Trace as well, just swap. Pulse bombs are come and go. Don't give a shit about them. Like, if you've held on to a pulse bomb for more than 2 lives, you've done something wrong. Ultimates you should consider holding on to. Dragon Blade, if you aren't getting completely shut out, is worth holding on to. Graviton Surge is worth holding on to and using. Just use it. Even if it's difficult to use, even if you only get 1 or 2 people, use it, because it's so hard to build up. Resurrect is one I think you should feel okay letting go. If your team is always spread out and always just dying in drips and drabs and you're never going to get a huge res, just do a tempo res and then swap onto something else that could actually be beneficial. I've seen it a couple of times where Mercy, for example, in like a dive comp or a very spread out comp, like Hanamura second point, for example, a lot of people tend to be in sort of different areas. If they're not all holding high ground, they can split off and sort of move around a lot. There are better heroes to play than Mercy until people start fighting on the point, and then Resurrect can suddenly become super powerful. But If you aren't finding any space or time at all to get a res off and people just dying all over the place, just tempo res and then swap to something else. Because Transcendence will be just as good. Trust me, Sound Barrier will be just as good. Nano Boost is a different beast entirely. Makes Ana very unique at support. Otherwise, other ults you should consider holding on to. Tac Visor. Just worth using. Just throw a Nano Boost on something if you're holding on to it. But in general, like, if you're just getting shut down, swap. I decided last season to focus on projectile DPS because I was better at it. Now I want to add hit scan in the form of soldier. Any advice for me to going from a burst damage playstyle to a more consistent damage playstyle? In general, you should actually find it remarkably easy. Like, if you are able to just put your cursor where you need to place it, it's easier, I think, to go from projectile to hit scan than hit scan to projectile. Just because hit scan will feel naturally easier because you don't have to do any other guesswork. You can just put your crosshair on the enemy, tap left mouse button, get a hit. Feels good, man. Biggest advice I can give you is just be very careful with your positioning. You have less mobility than a lot of the projectile heroes, so Pharah, Genji are a lot more easy for them to just bounce around. So when you do move, make sure you're moving quickly and make sure you're doing, like, you are taking the appropriate time to move as well. So after a team fight happens, immediately start resetting, immediately get into position, and immediately be set up for the next fight. You don't have the time to play around with. Even though you have sprint, you don't have time to sort of just take forever in getting where you need to be. If you're out of position when a fight starts, you won't be contributing at all. So I'd say positioning is definitely the big thing. Other than that, like, adjust your target priority a little bit. You'll find yourself shooting at barriers a lot more, and understand that you are sort of the backbone of the team's DPS. Like, if you are thinking, this is going to need a lot of damage to take down, you should probably be shooting at that. Of course, don't be afraid to take opportunities and sort of, if Mercy pokes out of the barrier, then shoot her by all fucking means, but don't go on big lengthy flanks and try and hunt people down and stuff like that. That's not your job anymore. Because if you start doing that, what will start happening is the enemy Reinhardt and Roadhog, for example, will just barrel forward through your team because nothing's shooting their barrier properly. And so you should be doing the lion's share of damage there. Right now I'm losing more server going down than my win-loss ratio. Happened 3 times in 30 games, minus 150 for no reason. I haven't had any server issues myself, so that kind of sucks for you. It happens to everyone though. Like, you get disconnects. Part of playing an online game. Feels bad. When we say it's a breakpoint for ult charge to change heroes, I imagine some heroes are higher than others. Like I explained, kind of went over this, so I'm not going to do it again. Just in general, like, if it's an ultimate that you can get 1 or 2 kills with, just get 1 or 2 kills with it and swap. If you're if you're playing Genji and you're just getting like 10% charge per life, swap. You are not going to get a Dragon Blade. Struggle to attack first point Numbani or Zarya. Any advice? A lot of people actually struggle to attack first point Numbani. Actually, to the point where I'm going to friggin' load up a custom game. So I'll try and answer another question while I do that. Let's actually just talk specifically about Zarya on first point Numbani. Zarya first point Numbani is always going to have problems. Just because you are going to be very reliant on the initial push, and if the Reinhardt doesn't play properly, you are really going to have issues. For a reason that I'm going to show you in a second. Let's just go with that. I think I want to be swapped. Go. Done. Stop. So why is first point Numbani so tricky? A lot of teams get slowed down and stuck and staggered on first point Numbani, or like they just move very slowly, and Reinhardts tend to do this. Ryan is notorious for doing this, but the same logic applies to first point Numbani that applies to everything when you're playing Reinhardt, which is do not stand in a choke point. The worst thing you can do is just stand still in a choke point with your barrier up. Let me turn on game sound as well. Sound. 550. Right, so we're Reinhardt, we're on Numbani. And let's say we're running conventional as conventional can be. We've got a conventional team lined up, Soldier 76, Roadhog or Zarya or whatever. And we're going to push through here. The last thing you want to do is do this, and then just like do this. And I see people do this all the fucking time. And now that I've pointed this out to you, you will see people do this, where they'll just like inch out. They'll very slowly grind forward. All this time, you are just taking shitloads of damage as you're going through this choke point. The enemy Reinhardt's clobbering you, everyone's hitting you, you are sad, bad, sad. Everyone's trying to clump in behind you in this little tiny space here, so if the enemy Reinhardt just decides, oh, I'm just going to fire strike it, gets a million ultimate charge, clubs you once, presses Q, wins. Sad, bad, sad. The thing you should do is get everyone grouped up when they're about here and go, okay guys, we're going. And then you push, and you just go through. And you just walk up, and if the Reinhardt's there, fuck him, just walk into him. Walk past him. Because what's he gonna do? He has to, if he starts swinging at you, your team's right there, your team will fucking kill him. If you're playing Zarya and your Reinhardt does this, you put a bubble on him, he walks forward, and he just absorbs a million, well, you get 40 charge instantly. The worst thing you can do, though, is just get stuck here. And I see Reinhardts do this all the time, where they're just inching out, and they're so timid. They're so scared. Oh, sir. Oh, they're hitting me, sir. Please stop. Oh, no. I didn't see this coming, even though I'm playing the fucking rectangle that is Reinhardt. Oh, they're hitting me. Just walk the fuck out. Just walk out. It drives me insane. And I've seen Ryan do this countless times, where they'll do this as well. And they'll poke out here, and then they'll do this, hoping that their team's going to do a shitload of damage out there. No, their Reinhardt's just going to stand there, put his barrier up, stop all the damage coming through, and then everyone's in this tiny fucking space doing nothing. It's ridiculous. Don't do it. Start the push, begin the push, walk out, you're out, good, done. One thing I will say is be very careful of doing this, because it is very hard to actually get over here. It's very easy for them to boop you somewhere unpleasant, and if you charge that way, there's a good chance that you are going to go off. I actually want to test something very quickly while I'm here. If I go here, yeah, it takes me all the way off. I was wondering if it would pull me short a little bit, so I could just knock people off, but yeah. Like, don't stop is the simple advice I have. The comment on Zarya is that if your Reinhardt stops, you're going to have problems. If your Reinhardt stops in that doorway, you're never going to get out, and you're never going to advance forward. So the best thing to do is just hope that your Reinhardt pushes forward, and once your Reinhardt does start pushing forward, like, put your bubble up when you're advancing with him. So he goes forward, he has the bubble. Then Zarya follows behind him. Zarya puts her bubble up, runs in front maybe for a bit, soaks a shot or two, then drops back and starts just advancing out. But do not get stuck on the choke point. If you're advancing low ground, again, I really advise against coming through here. This is just a canyon for them to shoot at you, where they're shooting you from here, they're shooting you from here. What are you going to do? Nothing. The idea is that if you're going to push low ground, you're trying for surprise, so try and get as far as possible, and then speed boost, and then just try and either push. You could try and push out on the point, but honestly I prefer going up here. Just be very careful like the Lucio doesn't come through and boop you all off. Try and get through here, you can get into here, or you can just try and contest the high ground directly. But be very careful about just letting them have the high ground and trying to stand on the point, because it doesn't work. Okay. Let's bring chat back in. Is it weird that I find myself having better accuracy with Sombra than Soldier 76? Yes. Yes, it is. That is weird. I'm guessing you're just shooting at a closer range of Sombra, or you're doing the wrong thing with Sombra and you're shooting barriers more, or you're not shooting the right things as Soldier 76. That could be for a number of things. That could be an absolute number of things. Because if you're playing Sombra and you... Like, Sombra's gun is just less accurate than Soldier 76's. There's no hero there about that. Woo. Come on, respawn me. Like, this has a ton of spray. And everyone. 2 minutes hitting across the entire playing card. Soldier 76, you have a lot more control. You have a playing card? No. It's a lot more focused. And you have control over it as well. Why is that bloom turned on? I don't even know why I have bloom turned on. Bloom shouldn't be on. Controls, bloom. Yeah, off. Why is it specifically on for Soldier 76? That should not be. Someone's been fucking with my controls. There we go. There. Much better. So yeah, I think you're just shooting close range targets maybe at Sombra more, and that's why. I don't know. What are some examples of some ults or heroes in general that you need on certain maps? Okay, so heroes in general on certain maps. Eichenwald, you'd be insane to play it without a Reinhardt on defense for first point, I'd say. And on offense, it really is worthwhile running a pharmacy if you can. If your team can run it, run the pharmacy because it's really good. I'd say in general, just like having a Reinhardt on defense is pretty good. There are exceptions, which is like one of them is first point Numbani, having them Winston. I can actually demonstrate this now. Imagination is the essence of discovery. So why is Winston so good at defending first point Numbani? Well, if I pretend I'm a defender, and we go and get over to other defenses. So one of the cool things about Winston is that he's actually really good counter dive. He's good dive, but he's a good counter dive as well. And we're seeing players and teams use this a lot more, where they will use it as a sort of counter initiation. So what you can do is you just hang out here, you wait for them to start pushing out, and then you just go ahead, you tase everyone as they're coming out, you can drop a bubble, as they start coming out, tase, 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 they start pushing out, you can drop back. If you start taking a lot of damage, oh look, I can retreat over to where my team is over here, and then I can start contesting maybe what I can over here, just set up, get healed back up, and then if they're on the point, I can drop down, start fighting what's on the point. Did I just drop some frames? Yes, I did, because my bitrate just went to like 12k. It's insane. Should be fine, should just be a momentary hiccup, but should be okay. And then if I need to get back up here, I can just do that instantly. If they go under, just dive over there, well that's no friggin' problem for me, I can just do this. Woo! And then we're over here, we're fighting the counter dive, and we're just shooting everything that they're sending at us. Like, we have a lot of play as Winston on this map. So that's part of why Winston's so good here. It isn't essential, but it's useful. Say essential heroes, Lucio on King of the Hill, I think is essential. I think a team with Lucio on King of the Hill and a team without Lucio on King of the Hill, a team with Lucio has a much higher win rate unless you are really, really certain of what you're doing. You know, just in random competitive mode, I imagine, like, if I could pull out the numbers, I feel very confident in saying that if a team has a Lucio and the other team doesn't on King of the Hill, the team without the Lucio will probably have a much higher chance of losing. My buddy and I often argue about Winston on defense. I'm not in favour at our level, similar to this vid, because he frequently gets isolated. Can't argue to that if he gets played loads. Any thoughts on this? It seems it seemed to almost play out as you discussed this player choice with Winston at the start. So the thing with Winston on defense is, like, if you're a terrible Winston, it's never going to work. It's similar if you're a terrible Reinhardt, it's never going to work. The point of playing Winston on defense is to understand that you can harass enemy Reinhardt, but you've got to be using walls for cover. So make sure you're doing that. Every coach in the menu I have on Winston is talking a lot about use walls, because this is 600 hit points. And that's nothing. That's nothing at all. That gets broken instantly to an enemy team. It's good at closing off single targets and maybe 2 targets, but if the enemy team's all shooting at it, it will go down extremely fast. So you want to be using the walls as much as possible and just make their lives miserable as they're coming out here, because, like I said, they want to push out fast, but if they're all taking 60 DPS, it's going to make it less likely that they're going to do so. Once they pushed out, you can get to a safer distance, reposition, and deal with it. If they're going to dive your team, you can counter dive on top of it, but just understand that you are playing a tank that is there to hunt targets down. If they are playing a triple tank lineup and you are playing on the Winston, that is when problems can arise. You've got to play very careful. Like, I would honestly say, if they're running triple tank and they start muscling out, you fall back, you drop down, dodge your Roadhog hook, and then you can come back up maybe and try and contest it a little bit if you have another tank there for support. If you have dive, you'd honestly be better served by just dropping down and moving down here and then hiding. And then letting them maybe get onto the point, jumping over, moving with the rest of your team, protecting them, getting back on the point to contest a bit, and doing something like that, while hopefully someone changes to something like D.Va. Once you die, do not be afraid to change to the Reinhardt. Woo! Pretty flowers. Which heroes can check an enemy Pharah? A lot of the hit scans, Soldier 76 and Widowmaker, definitely the best 2 at slowing them down. Zenyatta, also very good for putting pressure. I'd say running Pharah versus Pharah is very silly, almost. Very rare you want to do it. Just because the problem with this is that you spend so long shooting at each other that you're not really doing anything. So you can counter it in that way, but if their team is just better at dealing with you as the Pharah and you don't have a mercy, they do, then you're probably just still going to lose. McCree is okay. Not the greatest, but still alright at it. Definitely, I would say opt for the Soldier 76 first, just because he's better all round, so he'll counter more things. Widowmaker in a pinch, if you're stupidly good with Widow, then you could absolutely put a crimp in a pharmacy style. The problem with Widow versus pharmacy is that it's very hard to, like, you've got to get a headshot on the Pharah to make it work. Because if you're trying to get her with body shots, trying to land 2 body shots is going to be slow, and generally the Pharah can get out of like, you're probably going to have to land 3 body shots, and doing that is difficult. So you need something else to help you, so that's why Soldier generally comes first. In theory, Bastion can do it, but I don't like it so much just because the pharmacy will just wreck the shit out of you every time you get set up. Hanzo, in theory, can do it. But again, similar problem where this is just inconsistent. Like, you are really hoping that an arrow lands and hoping that it's a headshot, because once you land the body shot, the Pharah is just going to back off or just get healed up, and if you can't land two in quick succession, then you're going to have a problem. In terms of tanks, D.Va, absolutely the best way of just stopping it doing anything. Reinhardt, just get people behind your barrier, but they're going to get round you, so you're probably going to be wanting to defend against other threats. So D.Va, definitely sort of the off-tank of choice. Zarya can absorb the shots, but will not be able to stop the pharmacy just doing what they please. Sort of the problem. D.Va will be able to shut that down a lot better. Ana, very good at shutting it down. Just because you can make the Pharah's life a bit of a misery, so every time they poke out, if you just land a shot or two, it just makes it harder for them to do things. You can also, like, pharmacies generally move relatively predictably. Mercy, spoiler alert, is going to follow Pharah every time she Guardian Angels. It's going to put her where the Pharah was, so getting a sleep dart on that is actually very possible. If you can plug a couple of shots into the Mercy as well, it makes them uncomfortable, forces them to go back. Zenyatta, of course, the other choice. Just put a Discord orb on the Pharah, she has less freedom. Once she starts taking damage, she has to fall back. The danger of the Zenyatta is that if you get dived, you're going to be struggling. What if Blizz made a change where your ult charges transfer when you switched? Example, Tracer to Soldier gets the equivalent charge percentage for his ultimate. No. Never going to happen. I think that people talked about this during the beta, actually. So A, hero swapping has got to have some sort of penalty associated with it, because you are changing how your team works, and B, it is way easier for some heroes. Like, if that was the case, everyone would just run a Sombra, build up as much ultimate charge as they can with Sombra, and then swap and then go Soldier. Like, that would be the world you live in. And even if you say, oh, well, it's just half, or, you know, you get half the charge across, I don't think it works. I would rather just have it as it is now, being honest. I think the way it works now is kind of elegant, and still works. Regarding your recent statement about Orisa, Mei, Junkrat, and Reaper being Z tier, I have two questions. First, why was Reaper considered viable before, especially before Ana was released? And two, what characters like Bastion and Torb have... What do characters like, for example, Bastion and Torb have that those four are lacking? So, if you missed my statement about Z tier are heroes that I think are just useless at the moment. Like, especially above Diamond and higher, I'd say that these heroes stop functioning. Junkrat is on the list, Reaper is on the list. Mei was partially on the list, although she's got definitely a space in 2 CP that makes her function. And Orisa is on the list. As I say, Orisa, Junkrat, and Reaper are more Z list. Mei has function in the fact that her wall is effective and works, but otherwise the rest of her kit is sort of supplemental. You're mostly playing around the wall. So what I mean by Z-list is that it's very, very unlikely that you will ever be happy about running those. There's pretty much never a situation where picking those will be better than picking something else. And the reason why is pretty simple. Junkrat's inconsistent, can't deal reliable damage, can deal a huge amount of splash damage, but honestly there's better ways of dealing similar damage output to Junkrat with more sustainability, with more viability in the long term. If you play, for example, Soldier 76, then it's much easier to just get standard amounts of damage out. You still have the burst option available with the rocket. You can fight from a longer distance. You can do it more reliably. You can still shut down stuff advancing forward. If you want damage, then you can play Roadhog, for example. Reaper is Z tier simply because he has no reach, so he can't do anything aside from being close range, while you have a hero like Roadhog that can do things from close and medium range. Now, if you are asking, you know, so let's see, specific question, why was Reaper considered viable before, especially before Ana was released? And two, what do characters like Bastion and Torb have that those four are lacking? So, A, I'd argue that Reaper was not necessarily viable before Ana was released. Reaper saw brief viability when Ana was released because Beyblade was a thing. And so the idea is you just build up an ultimate and then Nano Boost will give you a 50% speed increase and Death Blossom would be able to kill targets in faster than anything could react. You could just shred absolutely everything, doing 300 DPS per second, moving at 50% increased movement speed, perhaps with a Lucia behind you, and taking way lower damage. So you just send that in, press Q, you sweep through everything and kill everything. Even if they put barriers in the way, the barrier is just going to get torn down. It's not a big deal. So it basically made Reaper just turn into an ultimate machine. Reaper's ultimate is like the best part of his kit because it's an extremely good ultimate. It's very good at what it does. It just clears an area, literally, as he says, clearing the area, and you get to do that. I'd say before then, Reaper was Reaper was more seen as something to help deal with Winstons and Roadhogs, but then Roadhog just stormed past him and was just better. Like, people just realized, hey, Roadhog's really good, and people went, yeah. I'd also say that before then, like, before Ana was nerfed, and before Beyblade was nerfed, McCree dropped out for a while, but then earlier than that, McCree's Fan the Hammer still did 70 damage per shot, so he was just better in that regard. And I'd say McCree is still better at close range than Reaper is in a lot of cases, just because the McCree can counter the Reaper and still do very, very high amounts of damage while still being viable in the mid-range, so McCree was honestly always better. Soldier was generally better at the mid-range. Soldier endured a period where he was weak. He did like 15 damage per shot and then got buffed to 20, which was huge. Now he's been nerfed back down, I think, to 18 or 19 a shot. I think it's 19 a shot now. And so it's a case of, like, these heroes have just always been more viable in the mid-range. And so they've always just been a lot better and always been picked more. I'm trying to think of a meta when Reaper was picked a lot. Outside of Beyblade, and I can't think of one. I'd say that maybe people played him more in pubs just because they didn't know how to deal with him quite so much, and I do occasionally see Reapers come out at lower levels, but it's still not as effective as playing something else. The reason why Bastion and Torbjorn are not Z tier, Torbjorn is actually extremely strong on 2CP defense. Torbjorn is difficult to maneuver around. You can deal a lot of damage at medium range and close range. His turret is a constant annoyance and a constant threat to teams diving. The armor packs are extremely powerful. The ultimate Molten Core is basically a complete denial of space. It's an extremely good kit that he has, and as a builder, he's actually pretty robust. The reason why Torbjorn is often considered bad is just because it's generally predictable to play around him. He just has a very defined way to sort of beat him, so once you figured out how, it's okay, step 1, blow up the turret, step 2, kill Torbjorn, it kind of just flows naturally from there. But we see Torbjorn working and being functional, at least at the job he's meant to do. Bastion's kind of the same, don't get me wrong, I think Bastion's still very low tier. Just because he's outclassed by Soldier 76 in pretty much every way. But he's still fit for function. He can still function across multiple distances, can still get kills, can still make it work. Well, I think Reaper, Junkrat, and Orisa at any level can just be outpicked and will struggle to get anything done, basically. Bastion at least will get kills if played efficiently and played effectively, while Junkrat and Reaper, it's very, 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 very hard to do so. And there are exceptions, there are Junkrat mains in the world that can play into a high standard and get him working, but I think that they would have a way easier time doing that shit on Pharah, doing that shit on Soldier, and they would agree with me. Like, I've seen Pro Like Crow talk before about Junkrat and say, yeah, no, this is hard, this is a stupid idea, do not do what I'm doing. He does it because he is a very high level player and enjoys the challenge. And so that's why he's doing it. He's the first person to admit that Junkrat is not amazing in Overwatch. General question of engaging. When do you engage? If you lose someone at the start, do you wait? At the start, yes. As the time starts ticking down, then you've got to start making snap decisions. But in general, like, the point of engaging is to engage as hard and fast as you possibly can. Like, you want to minimize the amount of time before start of engage and before they start losing heroes. If that time is a lengthy period of time, then it's sad, bad, bad, sad, frown town, sad, bad, bad. And basically, if you start a fight, like, it's dead simple if I just explain it like this. If you start a fight and it's 5 versus 6, who wins? Like, most of the time, who wins? It's the 6. They have an obvious advantage. It's simple mathematics. There are ways to play around it, there are ways to outplay it, but it's mostly the 6. And so, if you lose someone, why would you then start a fight? So if someone gets picked on the way in, why would you start a fight? That's clearly a bad sign. That's clearly a stupid thing to do. If someone's picked and you've already started an engage and you've committed ultimates to it, then you might want to start committing stuff. But honestly, I'd say do not commit ultimates to a battle that is immediately being lost. Try and make them use resources. Try and make them spend their ultimates on a fight that they already have advantage in. And if they do that, then that gives you an advantage in the next fight. Therefore, you can win off the back of that. So if you lose someone, like if you're all speed boosting in and suddenly a Hanzo arrow comes through and takes out your Soldier 76, you could still fight the fight because you're already in, you're already engaged, but don't use ultimates when you do so. Try and make them use ultimates, try and put pressure on the supports, and Zenyatta suddenly goes, oh shit, I'm gonna die, and pops Transcendence. And okay, and the next fight you come in, you have all your ultimates available, you use them, they don't have Transcendence anymore, you win. It's just being disciplined and being self-controlled, basically. And then just making sure, you know, don't poke guys and be aware of what they're running. So, you know, if they're running a Hanzo, peeking is extremely dangerous. Treat every corner like it's got a scatter arrow coming around it. Only peek when you're behind a Reinhardt Baron and you're safe to do so, or you're tanky enough to endure a Hanzo headshot. If you don't, and you die, then you're just stalling your team. A bold team comp isn't working. What is the best way to get people off bad heroes and play more standard when I'm not sure they know what standard is? Generally just ask like, hey guys, this doesn't seem to be working. Can we get like a soldier or something? And again, just throwing it out there. Like, just be polite, be upbeat. Don't go, oh, guys, what the fuck, guys? You're not good enough to play dive. Can we just go fucking standard? Like, don't be that person. Just go, guys, this doesn't seem to be working. Let's change up the DPS a little bit. No, they're just shutting down the dive every time. So shall we try something like a soldier? Should we try McCree? Try triple tank? Let's try something. And just make it upbeat, make it friendly, make it personable, and you'll be surprised how people respond. I mean, this is the second time, so I've got the ad. I'm never keen on defensive Winston at goal level. Yeah, I did this. Pharah is a serious problem in gold silver tier, especially because it seems like our only real counter is soldier, because gold McCree often can't hit enough, and if you hit Bastion, Sombra or Widowmaker, people tilt, even if you play it well enough. We're going to do different to counter her. Don't pick Sombra to counter Pharah, first and foremost, and don't pick Bastion to do it as well. Like I sort of touched on this earlier, I'm guessing you're asking this again, because it took a while to get to the question. The reason why you don't pick Sombra is simple. If they're running Pharmacy, how in the hell is Sombra going to deal enough DPS to kill the Pharah? Yeah, I don't even need to do this on this map anymore. I can get off the map. If we go to training, practice range. So let's say that Pharah's flying in the air. Let's say she's 10 meters above us. 10 whole meters.
Everything can be hacked.
Handily. In the training room, we have these little markers. So I can stand at 10 meters. It kills relatively quickly. Kills okay. Tuning a body shot. Slightly longer than 10 meters. That's relatively close. Let's go to the other target range over here. Let's say it's, so this is 10 meters again. So let's try about 15 meters. Relatively quick, but still, like, let's try and time it out on their heads. So, count in hand, ready. Okay. 3, 2, 1, and 1, and 2. So about 100 DPS. Let's try 20 meters. This is starting to look more realistic when we're shooting at a Pharah. 1, and 2, and there. Assuming she's not moving at all. Now let's try super long range. 1, and 2, and 3, and have to reload. 4, and there. This is with no mercy, this is with no healing, this is with the target not moving, so 100% perfect tracking, which doesn't happen in the real world. You're generally getting shot by other shit. It is very hard to kill a Pharmacy with Sombra. You do not have the DPS to do it reliably. And hacking them doesn't really stop them. The Pharah might end up dropping down a bit, but she's just going to shoot you twice and you're going to die. Or basically what's going to happen is she's going to shoot you and you're going to do this.
See you later. Because
you can't afford to take a second shot, so you've got to get out of there, right? So be very careful about picking Sombra. Bastion, likewise, he's so big and clunky that it's just easy for Pharmacy to kill you. Soldier at least has mobility, he can stand his ground a bit, put down a healing field, shoot at him, do a lot more. I'd say also D.Va, like D.Va should just be on that list, so if a Pharmacy is shitting all over your team, try and get someone onto D.Va, just to stop all the damage coming through, and you'll be surprised how much that opens things up. Otherwise, running double hit scan is not necessarily a bad thing, so hey. What do you suggest to counter dive? It's really annoying lately. Triple tank works very well. Basically, the enemy team has to play a lot better to counter it. Just because if you are diving into like this guy and you just see the Winston come in, you just hook him, cook him. Even post nerf, this will still work. You're just slowing down the dive enough, making sure the Winston's dead quickly, all that good stuff. Make sure your supports are playing tucked into your team a little bit and are looking after each other, because those are likely to be the targets. So make sure that the Mercy and Ana are healing each other, for example. Personally, I love playing Ana against dive. I enjoy playing Ana against dive. I'm the kind of sick bastard that, sees a Winston jumping in and just does this, and then it lands and it's a sleeping monkey in front of me, and then I just do this and he dies. It feels pretty nice. Other than that, like, aside from general tips in terms of play triple tank, stand on soldier 76 healing if he's put it down, look after each other, heal each other aggressively. Understand that they are looking to single out a single target, so any damage you can, anything you can do to, any cooldowns you can use to slow that down should be used aggressively. So if they are diving on a target, you're running a Zarya, put the fucking thing on them. If you're running a D.Va, which isn't a bad idea, you just put the defense matrix over whatever they're focusing and absorb as much damage as you can. Just try and slow it down, because once it's slowed down, it stops working, and you can just start getting kills on the counter. Is Chris Metzen the voice of Bastion, or is that just a myth? I believe that's a myth. I think Chris Metzen specifically is no voice in Overwatch, actually, because he wanted to retire. Why is Zarya not part of dive comps today? Wasn't she the dive off tank before triple tank meta? She was, and then they realized that Zarya is just really slow. I actually talked to some pros about this. So, the problem with Zarya is this. Out of the choices you can run, Zarya is good at the start of a fight, but what tends to happen is either the monkey just dies and then your team loses, because, you put a bubble on him, and then he jumps in, and the enemy team just focuses and burns him down and kills him. Okay. You need to get the momentum to build up. Once you lose momentum, if you lose any kind of advantage and you lose all your charge, you will never get it back against an enemy dive. Or it's very hard to get it back against an enemy dive that's being played properly, because they'll just see that you put a bubble on something and then they will just either shift focus or burst it and then burst you. She is quite burstable, and D.Va just does it better. At the end of the day, D.Va has more utility. Graviton Surge builds up too slowly to make it work, and out of the bag, D.Va is just more powerful. Defense Matrix is just so much more useful in terms of stopping a large volume of damage coming in terms of peeling for your support, and then in terms of just shutting down stuff, killing a Winston or shutting down a Soldier 76 Tac Visor, for example, works extremely well. Makes it very hard for their team to do anything. Let me put it this way. If their team is playing dive and your team is running dive, their team has a Zarya, your team has a D.Va, chances are I reckon the D.Va team will win. Just because they can stop more damage, they can slow down the Zarya even more by just eating up any Graviton Surges and putting out pressure by just existing, and then they're just a constant threat. I'd say that there are exceptions, maybe. If your name is Spree, if your name is Crew, if your name is Caffey, maybe. Then you can probably afford to play something else and you play the Zarya. But otherwise, I would advise against it. Like, I think the D.Va just works better, functions better. People having a big old talk about Sombra? What about a Rita against Pharah? I know her projectiles are slow, but for suppressing fire? No. No. Why would you have... Like, the question you've got to ask is, okay, let's say we picked a Rita against Pharah. Okay? So, A, we've given up a tank slot for this, so let's say we have Reinhardt or Rita, just for sake of argument. So I put down my barrier and I tuck under it, but Pharah just flies over it and shoots me. And now she has like a little goal to aim for, and if she puts a rocket in anywhere inside this blue field, I'm taking damage. So I have to back through it. Oh no, the enemy team's shooting me and I'm dead. So I have to stay in here taking damage. I can't do anything but try and suppress her, and try and pull her in every now and then maybe get some shots on her, but my damage is nowhere near reliable enough to kill anything. I cannot stop her doing damage to the important targets by just putting a barrier on them, because they can maneuver around the barrier super easily. There's no advantage to running a Rita against Pharah compared to running a D.Va, compared to running a Zarya, even compared to running a Roadhog even, where the Roadhog at least is creating an exclusion zone where the Pharah can't afford to get low enough. Otherwise, you just do this and then hook him and cook him. Scrolling down, scrolling down. What do you do when you can't sound upbeat in voice chat? Just control how your voice sounds. Don't go into voice chat and shout at people, because the reason why the term toxic is around is because Riot Games sort of made it their buzzword, but it's also because it's the poisoning effect of the entire team. Like, a game turns toxic, and what it means is basically if you go, like, let's say that you have 6 people. Okay, we have 6 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then let's say you go into game and then you fill up with anger and then you start lashing out at the team. Well, what ends up happening is that everyone starts getting angry. And everyone starts to tilt. So you start lashing out at everyone, and then this person gets angry and gets annoyed. And so he lashes out. And I'm glad I picked gold for this, because now it looks like everyone is pissed off, basically, and everyone gets annoyed and everyone gets angry with each other, and the situation is then irredeemable. One of the ways you can control this is just by how you sound and how you talk. And if you got a really naturally mopey voice, hey guys, my name's Igor, how are you doing? Oh, Eeyore, Eeyore. I'm very depressed. I will say this, I am a depressive myself, okay? I suffer from depression. Can you hear it in my voice? Probably not. It's because I'm practiced with modulating my voice and how I talk and how I sound. You don't necessarily have to go and do that yourself. I'm not saying go and become a shoutcaster. What I am saying is just don't sound overly negative, don't sound overly critical, and give people, like, a chance to recover some dignity, I guess. Don't go in there and saying, Genji, you're not doing fucking shit, man. What the fuck? Swap. Because what you're doing there is you're putting him instantly on the spot, putting him instantly under pressure, and instantly accusing him of doing something. He's going to want to react defensively to that, and so he will not respond in a favorable way. If you give him a way of just saying, oh yeah, no, you know, this doesn't seem to be working. Okay, yeah, sure. And you just make it sound like it's natural and part of the game. Like, hey, our dive comp isn't working. They're countering it pretty hard. Let's change it up, guys. Or, you know, whatever they're doing, it's working against us. Let's change it up. You notice it's not accusatory anymore. It's not putting them on the defensive. It's giving them a chance to say, yeah, this isn't working. Well, if you're going in and saying, yeah, man, this is fucking shit, man. Oh my god, we're not doing anything good now. We're just really bad. Like, it just has hostility. So just try and manage. Just try and manage. Do you think Training Ground could use an upgrade, some bots with abilities? Maybe a touch up here and there. I'd like numbers and statistics from the Training Ground, so you get to see DPS and things like that. Dota 2 has like the Primo Training Ground, where you can spawn stuff in, you can test it out, you can adjust settings, you have a console to play with as well, so you can just spawn stuff in and adjust stuff and do stuff on the fly. It's very, very good as a Training Ground. I think this Training Ground, the one thing I'd actually really love is to see the bot's head size decrease to be more natural and just be more reflective of a normal hero. Just because I think it's very misleading in the Training Ground at times. Is the Widow Dive viable now? Widow Dive is still kind of viable. Some teams still use it. It just depends on how good your Widowmaker is. I'd say it's viable. It's just it's extremely hard to do. It's one of the hardest team comps in the world to run. What do you do when a Sombra main picks, when another Sombra main picks Sombra? You play something that isn't Sombra. You should be able to play more than one hero. That's a misunderstanding the question, but if you have two Sombra mains on the team and one of them picks Sombra, the other Sombra main should be able to play another hero. And you should be able to trust in the Sombra main to play well enough and understand Sombra well enough, because if you're maining it, you sure as well better fucking be able to play it, or I'm going to tilt off the face of the earth. And you're not going to run in and pretend you're Soldier 76 and shoot the front lines. No, you're going to build up an EMP super fast, EMP their entire team when our team is in position, and then let us get the kills in an easy first one team fight, right? That's what's going to happen. Because if it doesn't, then what the fuck are you doing? But otherwise, yeah, just play another hero. You don't go into full baby mode and go, where, this is my Sombra, I need to pick it. Or you don't start arguing like, oh my fucking god, you're a terrible Mercy, what the fuck, what are you doing? Not even getting the res, your biggest res is a 2-man res? Name that movie. Yeah. Zarya's slow, but audio warning. Sure, whatever Zarya is doing is pretty disgusting. But don't get me wrong, Zarya comes out big, but she's just too slow in doing it. Otherwise, one or two more questions. What do you recommend someone in voice as a stutter? Generally try and keep everything short and sharp. Short and sharp is ideal. If you have a stutter, then just... I'm sure you've lived with it long enough that you know ways around it, and just try and get past it as best you can. I don't know how to voice counsel you. Sorry. I have a slight, like very slight stutter, but I'd say that's just more from anxiety than anything. Like, I have an urge to self-correct everything I say, so it just sort of makes me trip over myself every now and then. But not like a proper full stutter. I'm not sure. I can't voice coach you on that, I'm sorry. Let's do these three as quickly as I can. What do you generally do if your teammates are playing their heroes super so like a Reinhardt that likes to press shift more than right click, or an Anna that thinks she's Widowmaker and the rest of the team aren't flexible with swapping roles? First things first, you just try and ask to say, you know, Reinhardt man, could you just hold off on the charges for a second? Like, ideally, again, try and keep it semi-upbeat. But if he is doing that constantly and he's not changing and he doesn't realize what he's doing is wrong, you try and use him as a distraction. So he's charging in, the enemy team's turning around and fighting him, and you can then get some kills as they all turn around. And you just sort of peel for him as best you can. The Anna playing, like, doing a bad Widowmaker cosplay. Widowmaker doing a dodgy Anna cosplay. Yeah, just try and, you know, try and say maybe we need a little bit more healing. It's hard. It's hard. Like, if people are bad, then they're bad. What you've got to trust in is that, you know, if you're in these situations and you're playing someone who's really bad at certain heroes, A, they might be inexperienced at the hero. So they might be struggling with the hero a little bit. And so you could just say, you know, we just need like a smidge more healing. Just stand a little bit further back so you can heal us, something like that. Just use the I need healing button every now and then. Don't spam it like a madman, but hey. You can brute force standards that aren't healing as well by just running and standing in front of them. And that will give you some heals. So you will be able to heal that. But otherwise, it's tricky. It is tricky. You just got to try and make the most of it. Like, and then trust that you will have games where suddenly you are being carried by a god tier Ana, like myself, or you're being carried by a god tier Reinhardt. That will happen too. Or their team will have a really shit Reinhardt or a really shit Ana. And that your really shit Ana isn't going to play at your level for very long, so she's going to drop out the lower rank. Any tips on what happens when toxic teammates target you? Had a nasty run-in with some people over multiple games. Best thing to do if you're meeting the same people time after time, they're just being toxic, stop doing for a while, play a 1 versus 1, a quick play, something like that, just to break yourself out of the loop, because the game thinks that you are of similar matchmaking level, so it's just going to put you in the same games over and over. And honestly, if you play a really toxic game, it's fine to just go into like a 1 versus 1, or go into a quick play, or take a breather for 5 minutes, let the other people get into queue, and let the other people get into a game, and then you can queue, and then you can play safely. Just to sort of cycle those people out, because otherwise you will be put into the same game again. Like, if you play a toxic game and just instantly re-queue, chances are the other people instantly re-queued, and therefore you're going to get these dodgy games. If it does happen during a game and they're just being toxic, mute them. Like, it's all you can do at that point. Mute them, report them for toxicity, and then move on with your life. I think it wasn't yesterday because I took a night off yesterday because I was exhausted, but the day before I think you saw me just leave team chat for a game just because it was nothing but bitching, whining, and nothing but frustration and misery. There was no actual comms, there was just bitching at each other, and I just left chat and left voice chat. I didn't want to hear it anymore. I just wanted to focus on playing my game. That's fair enough. Easiest way to say you want to change roles, DPS to heals, have sleeping tabs, so we'll suddenly just drop and do not want to... Have sleeping tabs, so we'll suddenly just drop and do not want to DPS and swap to Mercy or Lucio. Have sleeping tabs. I'd say that if you want to swap roles, just... all you can do is ask. It is kind of like an unwritten thing. Now, if you lock in support at the start of a match, chances are you're going to be playing support. If you really want to change, and so you get between rounds, just insta-lock the role you want. If you think you're going to do it better, just insta-lock it. And then they have to deal with it, and if they ask you, just say, well, I think I can do better. Or, you know, it's like... I didn't think, you know, a good way you can pat around it as well is just say, I didn't think I did well in support there, so I'm just going to take DPS instead. I'm more comfortable. And so you can just do that instead. If you want to change roles mid-game, it's extremely hard, because what it means is someone else has to change, and it's very unlikely that you do that. All you can do is ask and hope that someone says, yeah, man, I'll play this. You see me do it every now and then. Someone will say, you know, oh, swap, you know, swap. You know, I'm not comfortable playing support. Can someone swap? And I'll go, yeah, I can play support. Or if I'm playing DPS and someone goes, oh my god, let me fucking DPS. I generally quite smugly go, oh, okay, sure, no, if you want to go and do it, then go and do it. And then we lose, and I go, wow, your DPS didn't carry us out. Or if they do better, then hey, then I win regardless, so who gives a shit? Now it's just me being able to set my ego, like, along the sidelines, or find a way that works mentally for me to be able to swap. Otherwise, that's all you can do, ask and hope. Otherwise, that's going to do it for us, I think. I've gone a long time with questions. That was a long coach to the many. Thank you guys for watching to the end. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully this was somewhat informative. And yeah, we'll be back next week on Friday or Saturday. Playing some, well, doing more coaching the many. Otherwise we'll be playing normal nights and playing Overwatch and having a good time. I'm about to play some ranked. If you do want to come check out Coaching the Many, you want to submit some stuff to Coaching the Many, then here. Tablets, sleeping tablets. Okay, there you go. So to get your footage reviewed, oamreviews@gmail.com, include the hero name and the rank that you are playing at, and then go submit it to that. If you're a Twitch subscriber as well, make sure you put it in the description or in the title, whether you're a Twitch sub or not. This lad was not, I think, but I picked it because I just saw like this man swapping a million times and it looked interesting to me, so hey. And so I did that. Otherwise, come watch it live, 10 PM British summertime, which is 11 o'clock Central European and about 2 o'clock in California. Apparently it's about 7 a.m. Australian. Good lord. In Australia, bless you. I think it's 9 a.m. in New Zealand. I don't know. Time zones. The shit. Otherwise, thank you for watching to the end, and I'll see you guys next time. Toodles. Done. Yes, I do. We'll be with you in a sec.